Day after day of snow closures, kids and pets are bouncing off the walls, and many are reaching a tipping point. Call it cabin fever, call it snow rage. The higher level of stress all these storms is bringing is very real. So what can we do about it? I'm joined now by Barbara Green, a psychologist with the Center for Integrative Counseling and Wellness, and Elena Razi Pellegrino, a psychotherapist focusing on anxiety and depression, among other issues. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So tell me how you are seeing snow rage, cabin fever, whatever a more precise diagnostic term might be. How does it manifest itself?
Well, I certainly am seeing it with patients. I wouldn't term it snow rage, but snow weariness. I think that people are really feeling fatigued, that our normally busy lives are even more so with the tasks of shoveling and transportation challenges, getting to work, and then making alternative arrangements for children when schools are closed. So I really think people are weary, but I think that as Bostonians, culturally, we're a resilient group, and I like to look at the positive, at how people are taking care of each other, helping out, collaborating, connecting, and reaching out to make sure that others are safe.
Does that jibe with your own take? Do you think snow rage is going too far? It's just weariness, or is there some testiness that we see on occasion?
Yeah, no, I agree with Dr. Green. I feel like I'm finding people now are just trying to make the most of it and trying to use humor just to get by. It's almost like you have to accept it at this point. And as far as having a sense of community, I'm even reading friends posting that they have people sharing gloves because they can't find gloves because they just can't get out and just have a sense of community. So in a way, instead of bringing out the worst in people, I'm actually seeing, you know, that it almost brings the best out in people too, because we have to sort of, we're all in this together.
I want to, oh, go ahead.
I would agree with Elena about that. When I was home this afternoon, one of my neighbors was delivering freshly baked bread to everyone in the development. And it was just a very sweet thing watching her walk these snow-filled streets with a basket filled with bread, making sure that elders in the community are safe and that everyone's okay.
All right, I want to actually blame snow weariness on something that I did last week. On Friday, I was supposed to go to a Celtics game with a bunch of people here at WGBH, and they all went before me, and as I was getting ready to go, I was thinking, you know, I am feeling so deeply antisocial. The last thing I want to do, and I'm usually a pretty gregarious guy, but I thought, I absolutely positively cannot handle going to this game. I want to go home, see my wife and kids, and go to bed. Can I blame that on snow weariness? Do you give me clearance?
No, definitely.
Excellent.
Cabin fever, I actually looked it up. It actually says it's a sense of claustrophobia. You know, that's where the term came from back in the 1800s. You feel trapped and you feel isolated. So the worst thing you could do is to stay home. Like, even if you just have to get outside and just go to your neighbor's house because you can't drive. Like,
but okay, because in my case, not to like belabor the point about me, but I wanted to do the opposite. I'd been out and I felt like I felt like I just needed to recharge my batteries, in part because you mentioned that we don't have the downtime. You know, you go home and instead of being able to take it easy, recoup after a, you know, a long day, you need to go out and do all this manual labor. So
I also think that there's a natural human inclination to wanting to be with loved ones when we're going through a difficult or challenging time. And I think that certainly the succession of these three major storms quickly on each other has really beaten down people to the point that they just want to get back to basics, and yet also knowing that they have to work. So during a difficult time, sometimes after you've shoveled and worked, you just want to go home. It's hard to do those things outside of the house, like the Celtics.
So you two have talked about constructive ways of responding to snow weariness or snow fatigue, like sharing gloves with the neighbors, bringing around fresh baked bread. I'm wondering what some less constructive manifestations might be that you've seen, or less constructive responses. For example, I have seen anecdotal evidence of people drinking a little bit more than they usually do. I've seen anecdotal evidence of people eating a little more and maybe not as healthily as they usually do. So are those perils that you run into in a situation like this?
Well, I think that if people are baking cookies, they're going to eat them. And if baking cookies or cupcakes with children who are home on a snow day from school, you eat them. Certainly alcohol, I think, is something that people turn to sometimes more excessively if they've not been at work, or they might drink earlier in the day. If If they're not driving, that's a good thing that they're not driving, but there could be a tendency to using substances more than during a normal day-to-day life pattern.
I think it's a good excuse as a reward. Well, I shoveled, so now I can eat more, or
Yep.
I'm stuck at home, so now I can drink to pass the time. So I think it's important to make sure you're not rationalizing or using it as a reward.
Alcohol is never the best stress reliever.
Right.
Having fun, playing games, getting outside, making snow angels, having an old-fashioned snowball fight, although this powdered snow is not well suited for snowball fights. But there are lots of ways in which I think we can more positively take care of ourselves and address stressors rather than inappropriate eating or alcohol.
Let me ask you how those stressors arise in the context of the family. I talked about wanting to run home to be with my family the other night, but on the other hand, my wife, if she were here, might mention that I've been a little grumpier than usual in recent days. So how much of a strain does a stretch of storms like we've had and everything that they entail, how much of a strain does that put on marriages, on relationships with significant others, and on interactions between adults and kids, who, as you've pointed out, are frequently home?
Right. Well, I certainly think that we've had much more togetherness, so to speak, in a house, with children there not going to school, with difficulties getting to work, and that I describe it as kind of frayed nerves. And in my office, we've been talking about snow crankiness. That people are cranky. They're just cranky. And so if you can kind of turn that on its heel and look at it, this is a moment in time, and it will pass, and we will get to the 4th of July, and we will celebrate on beaches and in the summer, and that we will get through this by taking care of each other and banding together, and also realizing if we're in our home and we're safe, there are others out there making sure, taking care of us, whether it's first responders or home care, health nurses.
We're benefiting from what they're doing.
I'm on staff at South Shore Hospital, and hospital employees don't have a choice to not show up to work.
Elena, last word, you get to have it. Advice that you would give to all of us who are dealing with this snow weariness or snow fatigue or snow burnout?
Definitely have fun. Humor, humor, humor. Like, just make the most of it. I was actually reading about the 5 stages of grief when you go through a loss. It's almost like you see this with the snow. I saw an article online, and like you were mentioning the anger, so it's almost like accept it and just make the most of it. Be a kid, have a snow day, go play, get outside, make snow ice cream, whatever you got to do just to have fun.
Excellent. Elena Rossi Pellegrino, Barbara Green, thank you both.
Thank you.